Happy New Year's, everyone. So I hope y'all remember what I said the last episode because I believe I mentioned that Michael and I, or maybe 2 episodes ago, that Michael and I were going to record somewhere through the holiday schedule. Well, that did not happen. But to start off 2023, we're right back at it for another episode of Nation80 Podcast. I'm here with Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Oh man, I am so glad to be back, man. It has been way too long. I almost felt like I didn't have a spot left after your girl came onto the show and killed it. Props to Tamika for filling in for me and really putting on a great episode.
Yeah. She really did her thing, and she's excited to come back. And we got some other guests that I definitely want to bring on. And I'm sure, Mike, you have some folks you might possibly want to bring on as well. But Mike, how about to start this off? Because there's a lot to talk about. Because me and you haven't, while we're recording this is like the first time me and Michael have got an opportunity to talk in about 3 weeks as well, other than text. So there's a lot to talk about. So let's first start off real quick. What you've been really digging this week, like as always.
Yeah, so and I heard you mention this in the last episode. Jen and I just started watching Yellowstone.
Ooh, good
My
stuff.
sister has been pestering me with this for years. We hadn't done it just because there's so many shows, so many good shows out there.
Mhm.
And we gave it a try maybe a year or two ago. Those episodes are long, and so I think after the first episode, I was like, I don't know. But we just started watching it again. I think we're about maybe 3 or 4 episodes in, and man, it is a good show. It's a really good show. The acting is top notch. It's good, and it's brutal, and it's got some interesting characters in there. So yeah, definitely Yellowstone for sure. Is something that we've been watching. Also finally saw Top Gun. Well worth it. Well worth the wait. Got my sound system upgraded this year, and I held off on watching the movie just so I could get my sound system upgraded to enjoy it. And man, well worth the wait. Bravo to Top Gun. That was great. And then of course playing a crap ton of Steam games. Just trying to recover from the holidays, overeating and shoveling snow and getting froze up in the house. Like, just recovering, playing, video games, enjoying the time off. And yeah, man, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. So, but yeah, Steam Deck games, Top Gun, Yellowstone, all good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The I would say now that since you're just on the first season, Yellowstone just gets better and better. And then the upside that I've liked about Yellowstone, it has a good mix of action and drama.
Yes.
So I don't feel like it's too much drama going on. And then before anything else, the visuals of that TV show is what really makes it. Makes me want to go to Montana, makes me want to go to Wyoming.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just so beautiful. And my dad's from the South. I know how individuals do on a farm and stuff like that, but that area is primarily flat, and to see something mountainous like Montana, it's just, again, the views alone of that show. Like if that show for yellow had screensavers, it would to me be just the visuals that they captured during their cinematography, because again, I love that part of it.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah.
I used to live in Idaho, and watching that show made me wish, like, man, there are times I miss living in Idaho, and see, like you said, some of the scenery, some of the shots in that show were just absolutely beautiful. Reminded me of my time in Idaho. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the other thing I've been checking out. So number one, I caught up on Yellowstone. So they're on their mid-season hiatus right now. So they should be coming back. I don't know when. But the other thing that I caught up on was I finally got the time to beat Uncharted 4.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to just say now, Uncharted 4 was an amazing game. Really enjoyed it. I don't know where the series is going from now, but I was not disappointed in this final, was I believe is considered to be the final storyline of Nathan Drake. Now
Okay.
that's remains to be seen if it's going to be the case, but we'll see. But as you also know, the Uncharted came with another game, what I believe is Thieves of, I can't remember the exact title of the game, but you're getting two characters. One of the characters is from Uncharted 4, and I believe the other character is from Uncharted 3, and they're teaming up to find another piece of work. And that story was pretty good too, but it was a great secondary game. It's not as long. It's short and sweet. At first, you know how we are, Mike. I was like, it's probably like a DLC. I'm not going to play it. Then
Right.
I did the first level, and I was like, yeah, I got to beat this. I got to beat this. So, I think within 3-4 nights, I beat that one as well. But really had a blast with that game as well, and went from that game and moved on to a game that I've literally been trying to beat for 12 years.
Oh boy.
And that is Enslaved. That is a game that came out on the PlayStation 3. I bought it back when I used to live in the Middle East, and time just prevented me from ever beating that game. I got like close to the end, moved, never set up my PlayStation 3 again. I think by then PlayStation 4 came out. By the time I bought a PlayStation 4, that game wasn't there, so I wasn't going back because Sony, they don't do backwards compatibility. And so because of that, I never played it again. Then I realized it was on Steam for $2.99. So
Oh,
of course, I had to go buy it. And so I played the first level yesterday, and it runs beautifully. It looks good. I'll admit, when using the Steam Deck, I love a game that barely uses 30% GPU compared to 99%. Because guess what? If it's not plugged into the wall, I want my battery to last. And so I love it for those reasons. So that's a game I'll be talking about more eventually in a couple weeks as I work to beat that game. But really
yeah. I
fun
don't think I've
game.
ever heard of that game.
Yeah, it's I want to say that there's similarities with the story and something else I don't recall, but it's it was low key. It never really made a big bang, but it's a really fun. It make Matter of fact, I if you want to call it anything, I would call it an Uncharted clone,
Okay.
right? But it's set in a different time. It's got something to do with mechs and humans and post-apocalyptic Earth compared to looking for treasure and stuff like that. But they have the same concepts. But I would definitely call it. I'm pretty sure that a part of this game was based off of Uncharted as a clone, just because of how successful Uncharted was back then. So,
Right.
but it's a great game. Mike, you have it on my Steam library, so I would recommend checking it out. I think it's only like 9 gigs, something like that.
Yeah, I
But
might check this out.
it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. All right, so I was thinking about something the other day when Michael and I were texting back and forth about games and Steam Deck and a few other things. And so, with it being January 2023, and we kind of talk about it all the time, I think it's time to have a discussion about what the last, I'm going to estimate here, the last 6 to 7 months have been with the Steam Deck.
Ooh.
Now that the allure is over, and you've had time to really sit down with it. I think we did one in the opening days. We did one, I think, at the 3 months time period, maybe a
Hmm.
little earlier. But we're at 6 months now. So now we've really taken it through its paces and seen whenever games. We definitely play a significant amount of games on it. So let's have a discussion about the Steam Deck, where it stands right now. Mike, I'm going to start with you because I know you've been going through some interesting things with your deck. So, how about you kind of give us your synopsis of how you feel about it these days?
Yeah. So let's see. So I got my deck. What was that? May? Yeah, it was in May. So I purchased my deck on May 16th, and then got it a week later. And since then, and I've been, oh my gosh, I'm looking through my purchase history right now. Since May 16th, I have spent so much money on PC games. I mean, I'm scrolling right now. That's how long this list is of games. It's well into. It's got to be at least 50 or 60 games since May. That's insane. That's insane. Um, and then even just this last winter holiday sale, I just purchased 20 games. Just digging that hole, that back library hole. Like, oh my gosh. So with that said, I mean, it's great. You know, uh, I've seen a lot of things come out recently with the mobile PC market. In fact, I and Nia just came out with a new one that people have been calling like the Steam Deck killer. But just to get the kind of spec that would make it that Steam Deck killer still makes it $1,000 device, and it runs on Windows, and the software and UI is just not up to par with what you get with the Steam Deck. And so I think my biggest like thing that I absolutely love about the Steam Deck has to still be the ergonomics. It has to be like it's the most comfortable thing to hold, and no matter what position or where you're at. I play my deck at home, I play it at work, I play it in the car. I could play it anywhere and not feel uncomfortable. I could never say that about the Nintendo Switch. And so that's one of the things I absolutely love. I still love it about it. And then I love the UI. Like it makes it super simple. I mean, don't get it twisted. The Steam Deck is still a gaming PC. It's not a console, but it's a gaming PC that consoleizes the PC experience. Okay, so that you're not having to do like we did back in the day, where you got to load up DOS and type in these commands, or go into Steam and click here, click there, and launch this launcher, launch that launcher, and this and that. Uh, Now it's just you boot up and you use your D-pad or whatever, and pick whatever game, and it loads up for the most part. So uh, with that said, like I still love my Steam Deck. I think it's amazing. I actually just ordered, and I'm hoping it comes this week. I I just ordered a protective case, so it's going to be a case that you put onto the Steam Deck, and it's going to have a protective cover that you could put over it, so that you could just throw it in a backpack. You don't actually have to have another case or anything like that, um, or like the case that comes with the Steam Deck. So I got this one from JSOX. D Brand had one that came out uh, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and it got a lot of really good reviews, except for they had to recall it because of a issue with their magnets and the fans in certain Steam Decks, and it was a bit overpriced. This JSOX one looks to seemingly improve on that and make it much more modular by letting you or give you the option to add components to it, but at a significant cheaper price. Like this case cost me $30 compared to D brands, where I believe theirs is like 80 to $100. So yeah, looking forward to that. As far as gripes, yeah, I've had some weird things happen. I think earlier this year, one of the things I had happen where I had to factory reset my Steam Deck, is where the font and the UI just got incredibly small, and I couldn't understand why. And I had been doing a lot of things to that point, whether it was adding different mods to games or adding mods to the UI, and I don't know if at some point, and also I was adding emulators, and I don't know if at some point I did something and it messed something up. I played around on the beta channel instead of the stable channel for a while. So somewhere along there, the UI got really small, and it was very hard for me to read. And I think I texted you about this and was asking you if you would experience this. And so I factory resetted it, and everything went back to normal. It was fine. Which, by the way, I've actually factory reset my Steam Deck twice now, and it's a completely painless. I thought it was gonna be terrible, but it's painless because I was like, I'm gonna lose everything. But I realized, oh, all my games are on my SD card, so I don't have to re-download anything. Um, and it literally took 5 minutes to go through that whole entire process, and it was good. So there was that issue. Recently, up to maybe I guess it was about a week ago, I had the issue with the battery, and I had downloaded Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, the Wildlands or whatever, and I was really excited to play this game on the go. And I started playing it, started customizing our character, and all of a sudden the battery died. And I was like, what? I could have swore I charged it. Okay, so I put it back on the charger, let it charge, started it up. Uh, and I had it plugged it to this point, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna take this. And literally from the time it took me to go from downstairs to walk upstairs to go to my bedroom, uh, it died again. I was like, what is going on? And so I'm panicking. I'm Googling left and right. Um, People are saying like, yo, you gotta get an RMA, send it back to Valve, this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had this for a year yet. How can the battery be bad? Come to find out, there are I guess it's not a common occurrence, but there are times where the software will glitch. And when I say the software, like the OS will glitch and think that your battery health is down to 1%. And so there was a step to, it's not really a step. You just go to desktop mode, you go over the icon, the battery icon, click on it, and you can see what the battery health says. And sure enough, mine said my battery health was at 1% and that I needed to contact the manufacturer to have the battery replaced. And I was like, there's no way, no way. So I found a thing on, I believe, Reddit, and it was a very simple, painless process. It did take time, but it basically involved me booting Steam Deck through the BIOS and then having it drain the battery from there completely so that it just turned off, and then charging it all the way up overnight, and then just restarting it so that it would reset its calibration to what the actual battery health was. And so, it was very tense moments. That next morning, I turned it on. I just kept looking at the battery, and it wasn't going down. I was like, I think we're good. So what's in my battery health? It was at 97%. So I was like, whew. So disaster averted there. But it's one of those things where I saw an article about the guy who was talking about, the Steam Deck. He doesn't recommend to people who play only PlayStation, Xbox, because the Steam Deck is a gaming PC, and anybody that has played gaming, has gamed on PCs, knows that you're always going to have issues, always with hardware, always with software. Even if you buy the latest greatest GPU, there's always going to be issues, and it's not a stable uh, performant platform all the time. So, and then he also made a comment that I never really thought about before. He's like, this as a Steam Deck order, he's like, I'm an early adopter. Like I'm the guy that's still beta testing this thing. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, So, um, I love my Steam Deck. Yes, there are issues. I don't run into them often, and even when I have run into the issues, somebody else has run into that issue and has fixed it. And yeah, so it's just of course, battery life could be better. You always want battery life to be better, but I never find myself playing for more than a couple of hours off the battery anyway. Uh, just don't have time for it. So after 6 months, if I were to give a grade to my Steam Deck, I mean it's an A for sure. Absolutely for sure. It's changed the way I game, and it's changed the way, you know what, Rodney? It's changed the way I look at gaming. Okay, I don't know, and I don't know if you've done this yet, but I've been playing. So I play my Steam Deck portably, of course, handheld. Uh, but I would say spend 40% of the time playing it docked. Um, and it's changed my perception. It's not like it's got the latest 40, what is it, 4090, 4080, NVIDIA graphics card in there.
Right.
It's got an integrated graphics, right? And so back in the day, if you said, oh yeah, I'm playing games on this integrated graphics CPU, people would laugh at you.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gotten so good now. And when I play docked at work, it's on it's on a 25-inch screen.
Mm-hmm.
25, 24 or 25-inch screen. When I play docked at home, it's on my 65-inch screen, or TV, should say screen, TV. All right. And man, and I'm talking like some high fidelity games like Spider-Man, Titanfall, some of these other games, that you would think with this kind of CPU or chipset, would it be able to run that well on a 65-inch TV? Uh, and it runs great. And I find myself rethinking, like, because before, man, especially if I haven't built a gaming PC in a while, but I purchased a gaming laptop a couple of years ago, and I had it specced out big time, spent thousands of dollars on it, uh, and I barely touch it. I barely touch it. It pisses me off. Um,
Well, shoot, talk
but
about barely touching. I barely touched my Nintendo Switch. And matter of fact, I just factory reset it the other day because I'm most likely going to sell it
right,
because I don't play it whatsoever. It literally sits here. You
it's
know what?
collecting dust.
Well, yes, and you know what? I've come to the realization because of that Nintendo has bamboozled me twice, and I think that might be it. And the reason I say that is because I bought a Nintendo Wii back in the day because of one particular function, which was that you could do all these things moving around, playing Wii Sports and stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
But once you start getting to that game catalog, you were like, nah, this ain't it.
Yeah,
And then you kind of just throw it away. And the same thing happened with the Nintendo Switch. The fact that you could pull your Nintendo off a dock and keep on playing, and then put it back on the dock and keep playing was the thing. And then before you realize it, well, so let's go back to the Nintendo Wii real quick. The reason why the Nintendo Wii failed was after a while, people didn't want to move around anymore. They wanted to sit down. And Wii Sports worked well with that, but then there was no other games that actually use that cohesively in their game to make you move around. So then, for example, if I'm playing Zelda, Super Mario, a third party title, you don't do anything with that Wii. As a matter of fact, you would just put it into that Wii controller and play that way, but you're not going to use it for moving. When you get to the Nintendo Switch, same thing used to happen. Uh, I never, well, excuse me, I won't say never. I barely used my dock, barely, because I used to like it handheld. And then after a while, matter of fact, then let's go to the Joy Cons. The Joy Cons are $80, and then they had drifting issues. Still have drifting issues that I had to go buy a third party controller to get it to work. And then the the ecosystem, because I remember Mike, me and you tried to play Marvel Alliance 3.
Hmm.
It was the worst. So when you start to add all those things up, and I have to do all of these things to get this thing running so I can play it, it becomes it doesn't become a joy. Why do I give the Steam Deck so much grace on that? Because, like you said, it is coming from the land of PC gaming. So there is always been a reason that you had to tweak something and all that other stuff. And something might not work the way you want to. And you understand that as a PC gamer. And so, for example, like you mentioned, I don't use my gaming PC. Matter of fact, let's go back to Steam. I was looking at the amount of games I bought in 2021, and I bought four games, and I reserved my Steam Deck. In 2022, I bought 27 games.
Hmm.
So that alone tells me, like you said, how different I look at gaming, because now I have time to play. I don't have to come downstairs and get on my gaming PC and all this other stuff. I can still be in the room with my kids and family, and I can play my Steam Deck, or I can play a quick game before bed, and I don't have to walk downstairs again, turn it on, play for a
Hmm.
little bit, and then make my way upstairs. No, I can, you know, play right there and then, hit the power button, put in the sleep mode, and then go to bed and go from there.
Well,
So,
and if I'm not mistaken, you've and at least at the time of your purchase, your gaming rig was a pretty decent gaming rig, right?
oh yeah, it's legit. It's very legit. But I guess I would say it's not necessarily a gripe. It's just a compromise that has to be made. There's so much you have to sacrifice when you're playing the Steam Deck at times that, and when I say that, I'm saying that in the sense of power, right? So, for example, I know Elden Ring plays on the Steam Deck, but to me, after playing it on my PC, playing on the Steam Deck doesn't work well. Playing Cyberpunk 2077, yes, it works on the Steam Deck, but you have to take a lot of compromises in the graphical power to play that game. So for me, those games are still better on a PC. But with that being said, I've played Spider-Man, which is action-packed, things are moving everywhere, plays just fine. I've played Wrestling Empire that doesn't use any type of graphical power, but I can play that game for at least a good 4 to 5 hours and my battery doesn't die. I played Far Cry. There's so many other games that I can play on that as long as you understand that compromise, you're fine. You don't have nothing to worry about personally. And then if you always wanted to, you can, like for example, when I want to play Elden Ring, I'll play on my PC. It's nothing too complicated about it. But there's some other games that I just enjoy playing on Steam Deck compared to on my PC as well. The one of them is NBA 2K. I can play that all day on the Steam Deck, and I could. Matter of fact, I uninstalled it on my PC. It makes no sense to even play it on there
Right.
because
Absolutely.
I get the experience I want on my Steam Deck.
Yep. I
The
absolutely agree.
beauty,
So for you, it's 2K. For
hmm
me, it's Madden.
yeah,
So I don't have 2K on my Steam Deck right now because I just entered the playoffs, my franchise, and so uh, there's always a game. Here's the thing: like you mentioned, you only had like 4 games,
hmm
and then Steam Deck came. You got all these games. Same thing happened to me, of course. Uh, and so my staple game to play all the time is Madden. All right. But before the Steam Deck, it would be okay. I've only got 1 game to play and focus on right now, where I can only play by myself, and I have to worry about people around, whatever. Ah man, screw it. Let's do Madden. All right, and then I'm like,
hmm
this is why I never got to finish Spider Man. This is why I never got to finish uh, Horizon Zero Horizon. This is why I never got to finish God of War. Um, Now that the Steam Deck is here, yes, I still play Madden, but now I'm like, oh man, I don't have to go like you said, go into one spot, go downstairs, get into the office, boot up the
exactly.
computer. I can literally get out of bed or even stay in bed at a touch of a button, get it off of standby and start playing, Deathloop, start playing Miles Morales, and so I think that yeah, it's changing it big time for me. And I, I'm curious if you've tried this, if you haven't tried it, I
hmm
have, um, and it's hard for me. So I do play docked.
hmm
The only reason I don't like playing docked right now is that I lose, and I'm thinking about spending money on this, but I lose the functionality of those trackpads. I am a I've gotten into the trackpads,
mm
especially the right trackpad, especially for certain shooters. It changes the whole game for me. And then the back buttons, um, especially the back buttons, especially for games like Spider-Man. And actually, now that what's the one game that I just played where I absolutely have to use the back buttons? I can't remember. But I'm using them and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna play this docked, and then I'm using my Xbox controller and I'm hitting the back of the Xbox controller, thinking that those buttons are there. They're not
Gone.
gone. Oh, it's Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. That's the one recently. I was like, oh my god, I'm using these back buttons. It's freaking amazing. Uh, when I play it docked, I'm like, oh. So now get to the point where I, I'm. It won't happen for a while. Maybe
hmm
for my birthday I'm gonna invest in getting the new Xbox Pro Elite, especially now that it's in its they have a development lab or whatever that you can completely customize it to, with colors and everything, and D pads and trigger pulls and everything. You can literally customize this thing down to the smallest details. In fact, even having it integrated. So I'm thinking I may make a Nation 80 Pro controller.
Ooh,
Um,
I like it.
so Design Lab, I think that's what it's called. So I m- 99% sure that I'm going to invest in that because it has the back buttons on there. And even then, there's rumors that Valve is going to come out with a second generation Steam controller. Their first generation one didn't sell very well, but from what I've heard, people loved it.
Does it
They just
incorporate with the Steam Deck? Does it work with the Steam Deck at all?
a Steam controller.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Like I've seen videos of people using their Steam controller with the Steam Deck. And in fact, I want to say they've pulled features from the Steam controller onto the Steam Deck. Um, and so I'm curious to see what that's going to look like because I'll be the first person to be on board. Because like I said, I really love playing my deck docked.
Hmm.
It's cool. I've showed you the picture of my office or my workspace where I got my work monitors off to the side, and in the middle I've got my gaming monitor. Um, and it's cool because like at lunch I can literally just hit the start button and it's right there. And I got the speaker on, and people keep coming by like, "Mike, what the hell are you playing, man? Damn!" Um, and then when I'm at home, I'm usually playing on the big TV with Elias on whatever co-op game we try to play, and it runs great. And it makes me think like, well, why do I? It almost kind of makes me mad because the TV that I bought specifically so that it could play 4K at 120 frames per second. Bought this
Hmm.
TV last year. You know how many games I played at 4K 120 frames per second?
Probably none.
Zero.
Hmm.
Zero. And now I'm like, I don't know if I even care for it now. And
It's just one of
so
those things that, like, for example, if the thing is that even though the technology is there, it's so cumbersome to use.
right.
Like for example, there's 4K TV shows, 4K YouTube videos, but of course, like anything else, then it requires more power, more resources to run them, or
Mhm.
to even to like remember we were trying to do 4K videos, but to render a 4K video is nuts.
Oh yeah.
It requires so much that it's not worth it, especially like when you're a smaller channel like ours. So
Mhm.
I understand why you don't use it. It's kind of like having a 3D television, even though even though 4K has been adopted more. I even think there's an 8K television. I don't know who uses those
Right.
because there's nothing to do.
Right.
I don't even think there's even much media out there for it. So I
If
really,
any,
yeah,
you
if
know.
any. So, you know, someone's just been sold a sale of goods that was totally fictitious because there's nothing for it whatsoever. But Mike, real quick, kind of going back. Well, Mike, finish your point, and then I'll go back to what I think about the Steam Deck.
Yeah, so I just to finish it up, uh like I said, I play it handheld, of course, and I play it docked. Both experiences are very enjoyable. Are there hiccups? Yes, for sure. Uh, but it's a PC, and PCs always have issues. Uh, I don't run into a lot of them, but when I do, they're pretty easy to fix. And so like I said, what's cool is that there are a lot of companies now that are uh, coming out with better versions of their handheld PCs. Like I said, the Ion Neo 2, I believe, is about to debut, and from all accounts, it looks pretty dope. It's got the Hall effect uh, sticks, so that there is zero drift because it uses magnets to control the sticks, which seems pretty cool.
Mm,
Uh, it's like the PlayStation Vita. So the PlayStation Vita has a one piece glass screen that runs across the entire device. So does this. So there are no bezels. The screen looks amazing.
mm,
um, it's got RGB on it for crying out loud. Like it looks pretty comfortable to hold on to. Like it's not flat like the Nintendo Switch. It's got that it's got deep grips like the Steam Deck, and it's slightly smaller. It's got a better chipset in it. But then like I said, it's actually got a higher resolution screen on it. It runs the Steam Deck runs at 800. I believe the Ion Neo runs at 1280. So a true like full HD.
HD.
Yep. And so with all that said, everybody that I've read or have watched videos on said, yes, this thing is superior to the Steam Deck for sure. But just like the Steam Deck, the battery life sucks. Okay. So, yes, you can run Call of Duty at 60 frames per second or more. In fact, I've seen people running at 80, 90, 100 frames per second. That's great and all. Maybe you get 45 minutes off the power, you
No.
know? So, just because it has all these great specs, and the uniform thing that I've heard is that because it's going through Windows OS, the UI experience is not as good. Not even by a little. It's by a lot.
Mm.
And so I gotta give Valve its props, man. Like they've made this device that, yeah, the other companies are trying to compete now, which is good because now Valve is starting to get competition, so they won't get complacent. They're gonna try to make it even better. Um, eventually, you'll get a Steam Deck too. Who knows what that's gonna look like,
Hmm.
and what kind of things that's gonna do. So yeah, no, I mean this thing is for the money. Logitech came out with the Logitech G Cal for $400 that only does streaming. Well, why would I do that when I could buy a Steam Deck? I could buy the cheapest Steam Deck for $400, and not only can I stream, which is something I've done too. I don't know if you've done the micro. I know you said you canceled your subscription, but I have the Microsoft Xbox Game
Hmm.
Pass, and streaming on that is pretty damn good. Um, in fact, I've done it. I played what is it? Something
Avengers.
Life. No. It's Higher Life. Just came out. It's
Okay.
from the creators of Rick and Morty. Okay. And so like one of the guns is voiced by the guy that does Morty, for crying out loud.
Mm.
And so I played that. I was pretty slick. So yeah, it streams and you can play games standalone anywhere you want to. Uh and so man, if I knew now, if I knew then what I do now, I would have gone for the cheaper. I would have gone for the cheapest Steam Deck,
Mm.
because I don't have any games on my hard drive, on my internal hard drive. Everything is on my flash drive. I've got about 40, 42 games on my flash drive right now, my SD card.
That makes
Um,
sense because
yeah,
I especially with the shading, the pre-shading, I try to keep everything to my external and not internally as
yeah,
well.
yeah. There's virtually no difference,
Hmm.
So I love my Steam Deck. I can't wait to see all the improvements that Valve is going to be making. Rodney, I don't know if you've noticed with the game overlay now, if you set it to level 2, um, as far as information, now that level 2, it gives you frame rate, gives you battery power, GPU power, CPU power, but it's not in a paragraphed column. It,
Yes,
it goes
yes. I
across the
keep it.
entire
Mine stays there
screen.
permanently.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It never. I never let it go away. I keep it there just to see what
And
my
I love
stats
that.
look
I
like. Yeah.
absolutely love that, especially for looking at the battery power.
Hmm.
I absolutely love that. And that's just the little things that Valve does to keep us happy. And they listen to us and give
Yes.
feedback. And I love it. So after 6 months, am I glad that I spent the money that I have? Yes, absolutely. Valve has got me completely sold. Um, I don't play my I play my Nintendo Switch maybe once in a blue moon, and that's if we're playing Mario Party with the family.
Hmm.
My I don't play my PlayStation anymore. Um, I do still want to get a PlayStation 5, but I feel like it's more now for novelty because that may be the last game console that comes out. Um,
Hey man, now that I'm in the situation of where I can wait, PlayStation has definitely fallen off of my list.
yeah,
As long as
absolutely.
I can get the as long as I can eventually get the PlayStation exclusive, because I still want to play of Tsushima,
Yeah,
the new Horizon Dawn, and I know there's a new Spider-Man coming and things like that. And someone was jokingly telling us like, well, you gotta wait 2 years. I'm fine with that because guess what? There's still a whole bunch of games
right. The
and my
backlog is real.
yeah, absolutely. So
It'll keep you occupied.
let me just go into my pros and cons here real quick. So some of my pros, Well, we already talked about my pros, really. Let's talk about the cons here. The cons is just the lockups from time to time, right? And they're not even anything major, but they're just inconvenient. Where, for example, you put your Steam Deck to sleep, and then you start to resume a game, and it just sits there spinning for like 5 minutes, and it
Oh,
never
really?
restart. Yeah, so then you end up having to restart your whole Steam Deck to get the game going. Does it cause any issues? No. Does it crash? I guess. The other
Just out of
side is
curiosity, is there a particular
mhm,
game that's happened to you the most?
various titles.
Okay.
I couldn't pinpoint an exact one. Would have been Uncharted, another
Mhm.
one would have been Spider-Man,
Okay.
another one would have been even like Wrestling Empire.
Okay. Okay.
So it again, it's not anything major. It doesn't stop the show because the Steam Deck does come up quite well. So then you don't have to wait for it to like warm up dang near to get back into it. So it's just a minor inconvenience. If there's another thing that I think about, sometimes applying updates, same thing causes a slowdown or crash, depending what part of the process it was in. Sometimes I wish some of this stuff could be done in the background, like on your PC, in the
Mm.
sense that, that
Like if
if
it's
you,
asleep and then
yes, it can go
okay.
ahead and install that update. But then I think if it's asleep, then it's never fully powered off. And I don't think people would enjoy a portable system or mobile system like that
So it's
because,
curious you say that. I've heard a lot of people gripe about this
mhm,
because so like with the Nintendo Switch, you could download something, start to
yes.
download something, put it on standby. Like you hit the power button, it goes on standby. It
Mhm.
still continues to download that game.
Well, mind you,
Okay.
the Nintendo Switch is never powered off. It's always in standby mode or sleep mode.
Right. So yeah, it'll always be instead about you. I mean, you can power it off if you literally, go into the menu and actually
Yeah.
power it off. But yes,
Yes.
but it's the same. It's still the same thing though. Like you don't have my Steam Deck never turns off. I always put it into standby.
Mhm.
And so the one thing I've heard everybody gripe about is why can't I not have it download while it's in sleep?
Mhm.
You know, and what's the big issue? Like, is it because they're worried that the are still going? Like, if it doesn't heat down properly or cool down properly? I've heard a lot of different like theories about why Valve just refuses to do it.
Well, if
Um,
someone was to ask me, I would say my theory would be point blank battery, right?
right.
Because they have no clue. They're going to assume that you're using as intended as a mobile device. It's not connected to the wall and so forth. So if you have something that powerful just sitting there in sleep mode, even like I told you with my game Wrestling Empire, I think it can play for about 4 hours, 4.5, maybe 5 hours.
Hmm.
I would think if something's downloading, matter of fact, have you ever listened to something download in the background? That fan goes nuts with certain games. So I would believe that also plays a part in it because it seemed
Because
to
not cooling
be
down properly.
probably not cooling down, but just the fact that it's doing a lot to grab whatever game, especially if, mind you, like I told you before, I'm playing old games and stuff like that. But let's just say that the current gamer is playing, like you said, Modern Warfare. I looked at NBA 2K23, it's 130 gigs. I'm sure that that would pull a lot of battery power trying to get that game down. So if I was to assume anything, I would think it's because if you were to put the game on sleep mode and have it download in the background, it would still pull a significant amount of battery that when you came back after, let's say you did it at before you went to work, you came home, your system be dead, and then you'd be annoyed that, like, let's say if you're getting ready to head out on vacation, that you got to charge this bad boy back up. You know, I would just take it that way because let's just put it that way. Mike, I know you have a new battery pack. I have a couple different things to hold me over, but there's always a user who's assuming it's going to do as mobile devices do and so forth. But I don't know. That would be my theory is
Well,
that it would
so
be battery.
it's interesting to say. So let me throw this at you. I actually just was watching. You've heard of Linus Tech Tips?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
they did an episode about them switching over to the MacBooks.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much the sole reason they did it was because their Windows laptops, when they put them on standby, and let's say they're downloading something or there's a software update and it's doing that, their laptop would be dead in the morning. And they don't have that issue with the MacBooks. And it's not that Apple's doing anything crazy. It's just that with the new Windows OS, there used to be, I guess, an option back in the day where you could click a button, and if the system was downloading or doing something in the background that was going to drain the battery overnight, you could say, hey, I don't want you to do that. Just wait until it gets put back on power. But they took that option away for whatever inexplicable reason. But the Apple MacBooks, they don't do that. There's just it downloads what it needs to download, and if it gets to a point where that download or a software update is going to, it's just like with the Apple phones, like it won't download or start an update unless you're plugged in, or unless you're above 50% battery power. Okay. And so I'm hoping, and I think if enough people bitch and complain about it and say something to Valve, I think they'll do this. If I would like the option to, if I leave my device plugged in, like I'm charging it overnight, give me the option to download those software updates. Like, go ahead, download the software updates. It's on power.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that option. And then if it's off power, okay, look, like you said, if you got shit going on in the background that's gonna cause my battery to be dead in the morning, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Give me that option. So I would like to see Valve do something with that, because I think they can do that. And it's very, like you said, it's very much different from the Nintendo Switch. Like the Nintendo Switch doesn't have to worry about all those different things. It's not a gaming PC. It's an Android tablet. So it doesn't have a million things going on in the background, where it can do those software updates and downloads, and not drain the battery. Whereas, like I said before, it's a gaming PC. It's a PC. You got 100 million things going on in the background. You have no idea what's going on. Like you said, you got fans going off and this and that or whatever. You don't know what's going on in the background. And
so I have an answer real quick for the whole Windows and Apple thing. So me being an IT guy and being a Mac user. Oh my goodness. My daughter decides to come in here mid-conversation. Bye. She wants my phone. All right. Anyway, going. The reason is the update schedule, right? So I work with Microsoft products in my 9 to 5, and Windows update schedules is nuts. It is ridiculous. Like, I can't explain the amount of updates that funnels through a Windows device. And with that being said, Mike, you probably remember being on your PC every morning. You wake up and Steam is blinking at you. Hey, we need to restart. We need to restart because they updated something, 1,000 times. So the first things first, Valve would need to fix their update schedule. The reason why Microsoft I don't want to turn this into a comparison, but the reason why Apple doesn't catch a lot of flack for this is that their update schedule is all packaged in one containing thing, and then it goes out there. Don't get me wrong, there's apps that have to be updated and stuff like that, and that's done through their app store, but it's nowhere as invasive as Windows products. And then their own system updates are done in such a way, like you said, that it's like, hey, you got 50% on your phone. Oh, you can't do it tonight? Well, maybe tomorrow. You can't do it tomorrow? Okay, fine. They're going to keep on pinging you, but you control the narrative as far as when those updates happen. And Microsoft, on the other hand, is like, we don't care until you finally come to us. By then, you've already have 1,000 viruses on your machine. I'm terrified to look at my mother's machine right now because I'm sure it hasn't been updated since the last time I was in town. But that's I agree with what you said. Valve should try to systematically set it up that look, because part of the gaming experience gets ruined when they're like, hey, we need to update a game, and you go, well, fine, it should only be a quick 5 minutes, and then you realize it's downloading 11 gigs, and you're like, wait a second.
Right.
And then now the time period that you had to play is now gone.
Right.
And
Especially if
then,
it's one of those huge, those big,
oh my
like
goodness,
2K
yes.
is a 120, 130 gigabyte game.
Yes, and
You
it
know.
doesn't install the same as it does on PC.
Right.
So it's solid state. It takes a little longer, and then they have to verify it to make sure it's working. So that not only do they download it, and that takes, let's say, 10 minutes, it might possibly take another 10, 15, 20 minutes for them to verify that the installation is now, its integrity is there, so that's playable. So now you've lost that time. But you know, going through everything like Michael's did, I'll give a score. And I'm still around a 9 when it comes to a 9 out of 10 when it comes to the Steam Deck. There's those little things that annoy me, like trying to get Ubisoft games on there, Epic games on there, EA games on there, just because, like I've mentioned before, my personal preference, I would just love to plug and play. I don't want to play IT Man all the time at home. But I understand why it's that way. There's licensing, there's competition, and all those other things. But the other side of that, I love the fact that Michael and I have been able to play multiplayer games on our Steam Deck and just hook up our Bluetooth headphones, and it's on. The other good side of this is, as a guy who used Comixology back in the day, I used to hate having to purchase something on the Comixology website to actually read it on my mobile device.
Mm.
And if there's one thing that I always give credit to Valve for, is that all I need to do is go to menu and go to store, and they'll say, hey, this is what's great on the deck. That alone is worth the weight in gold, because there's nothing worse than purchasing a game and then you realize it's uncompatible for the deck. They tell you right there and then, they make that visual known. They tell you this is the issues you might run into. Yes, there's games that are just too old and we don't know, and there's been ways to work around it, like the Batman series and things like that. But as these newer games come out, the first thing of them being in your face, well, number one, of course, it helps business. But number two, for me as a consumer, it's like, oh, dope. This game is okay. I'm gonna purchase that because, like, for example, I'm a Civilization fan. If I purchase Civ 6, it doesn't work for the Steam Deck, and someone's gonna go, "Duh, you should know that." No, I don't know that.
Right.
Just remember, I'm a normal consumer here. I don't know that. I'm assuming that it's going to work because you sold me on the premise that I can now play my PC games mobile. So I'm take me being an IT or gamer out the way. You want something to give you those things so that you understand what you're paying for. So to break it down, I love the Steam Deck. It's been a great thing. I can't wait for Steam Deck 2 to comes out, because if they work on those little tweaks, to me, there's nothing else that I want personally. There's nothing else that I want. I don't necessarily need another Nintendo. I won't say ever in life, but I won't need another Nintendo until its next iteration, because the family loves to play Mario Kart. It loves to play the multiplayer games. But we talked about that too. Mario Kart is still $60 most likely. For what? For what? Right? When I can go on Steam, and we can turn this into the next topic here, Mike. We went on Steam for the holidays, and you walked away with 20 something games. I walked away with 20 something games, and I don't feel like I got gypped any sort of way, because I got some great deals on some games. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mike, why don't you tell me, out of the current, if you want to go down the list of games that number one that you purchased, and this, what was the highlight of your list?
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm looking at my list right now, during that sale, I got Tekken 7, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Curse to Golf, Ghost Song, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Mad Max, The Next Penelope, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Crisis Remastered, Portal 1 and 2, Deathloop, Subnautica, Raji and Ancient Epic, Hong Kong Massacre, Project Wingman, and Firewatch. So it's a mouthful, it's a lot. And earlier that month, on December 8th, I got Project Warlock and Project Warlock 2. So a lot of games. I can tell you right now, I was really looking forward to getting Ghost Recon. That's one of my favorite games of all time.
Didn't we play that before though?
Yeah,
Like,
that was a PlayStation game. We played that multiple times.
is that the iteration we play, or is this a different iteration?
No, it's the same one. It's the exact
Okay.
same one. But I wanted this one because I don't play my PlayStation anymore.
Mhm.
And I wanted something I could play mobily, and so that was a definite go for me. One that I'm really excited about, of course, Miles Morales, uh, but Metal Gear Solid. I haven't played Metal Gear Solid since the PS2.
Mm.
Okay. Just haven't played it. And so I had read the reviews, I've heard people talk about it, and this was one of those games that was like, if you're going to get back into it, this is the one to get back into. And so I've only played like maybe a couple of hours into it, and of course, in true Hideo Kojima fashion, like it's a story, it's a movie. Like
Mhm.
you're gonna have to sit through a long ass tutorial that's story driven, and you got to pay attention to the story, whatnot. But man, visually, it looks amazing. So yeah, so very excited for that one. Mad Max was one that I heard of from somebody that was like you know, the game was underrated when it came out, only because Metal Gear Solid came out at the same time. And I started playing that one, and man, it's really good. Again, visually just stunning. Uh, but I think the game that I'm really kind of high on right now, I haven't played all these games yet, but the one that I'm really high on right now is Deathloop. Uh,
Okay.
Deathloop is this insane groundhog stay, like it's all about breaking the loop basically. And
Mm.
I don't have the full story yet because I'm still learning the story. Um, but essentially you're playing this guy, his name's Colt, and you got this female who is just talking like literally the opening scene of this game is her killing you with a machete. Like just a
Yikes.
long ass machete. And it's not like she's hacking off your head. Like she like the opening scene is her like stabbing you in the chest. And you're gurgling, blood's coming up everywhere, and and all you're saying is, "Please stop!" Like I don't understand why you're doing this, and she's just talking bad shit to you the whole time. Um, and so it's kind of like that movie. What is it? The Day After Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where he's trying to break this loop and get rid of these aliens, and
Yes.
he dies multiple times in order
Underrated
to get.
movie.
Yeah, great movie, and it's literally that's literally what this game is. You're trying to figure out why am I in this place, and why do I need to break the loop? Uh, and you're trying to piece back your memory together. And so you go through it, you die, you go through it again, you die until you eventually, beat the game. And so it is a roguelike. And I typically don't like roguelikes. Uh,
Mhm.
but this one is just it's visually stunning. And you can get it to run at 60 frames per second if you put the FSR on. But I've been playing it at 40 frames per second, and that works. It looks beautiful. Uh, and I typically don't care about the frames per second, but I like to try and push the Steam Deck to see if I can. And yes, you can get 60 frames per second on this game for sure. Uh, but you got to have FSR on, and it still looks good. It looks really good, but I think I prefer it at 40 frames per second with all its graphical fidelity. And man, it's just the dialogue in the game, the tense moments. Like I'm trying not to die. Like I'm just trying not to die. Like yes, you can kind of stealth your way through this game, um, but there are times where I'm just like, man, fuck it, I'm gonna go ham on these guys. But it's very unforgiving if you do that. Very unforgiving because they'll sound an
It sounds a
alarm.
little bit how Dishonored was back in the day. You can
Yeah,
go stealth, but you're right. If you didn't do the stealth portion,
yeah,
or even Hitman, Hitman is the same. Is another game where you can go stealth, but if you don't, well, you're going to pay for it.
yeah, and
So,
they will make you pay for it. Like once that alarm goes off, people just come after you, and it's like,
mhm,
man. So yeah, Deathloop for sure. That was a PlayStation exclusive, and I really enjoy that game because there's a lot of games that I have on here, and maybe a third of them require a third party launcher,
mhm,
either if it's EA or Ubisoft, and those can get kind of sketchy sometimes, especially if you're offline. Um, just logging into that third party launcher, which uh, it's not Valve's problem. That's a third party problem. Why we need to have launchers in the first place, whatever. Um,
mhm.
but this one doesn't need a launcher for now. Uh, you know, uh, so it's a nice. I can pull up the library, click on it, and get back into what I'm getting into. And so they also have a mode where I haven't tried it, but there's a mode where you can play as a female, and you're basically you're going online and you're trying to stop other players from breaking the loop.
Mm.
And again, you don't know why she's trying to protect the loop, and you don't know why he's trying to break the loop. Seemingly, and there's a scene in the game where it says like this is where Death died. Uh, Seemingly, because Death is dead, this is why nobody really dies.
Mhm.
And so it's a really good game. I mean, there's a point in the game where uh I jump out of a window and I actually get caught by myself. And he's trying to explain stuff to me, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna let you go." And you're like, "No, no, don't do it, don't do it." He just lets you go, and you die. You wake up, you're like, "What the fuck? I just killed myself." Like, so it's a good game. Very interesting game, very tense game. I'm I want to try to do a deeper dive into it, get some gameplay footage of it. But out of all the games, that one's the one I'm definitely enjoying the most. There's a game called Hong Kong Massacre that I got that it's like a top-down 3D isometric type of game, like twin stick shooter type of game that looks pretty cool. That I'm really want to get into. Tekken 7 actually, I played that. That was actually pretty cool. Uh, there are some indie games, Ghost Song, Curse to Golf, Raji, Subnautica. Those are games that I'm really wanting to play. Oh, the next Penelope. So yeah, I can't complain about any of the games right now. But Deathloop and definitely Metal Gear Solid. Those are the ones I'm are high on my list right now.
Dope, dope. So the games that I got, well, first going back, I'm super excited for Deathloop, and I watched this thing earlier today where there's an NPC that you literally can kick off a cliff, and I like screwing with NPCs in games, so I'm definitely want to take him out when that time comes. I think about like Fallout 4 and Outer Worlds. Like any NPC could get it if I feel like it, right? But anyway, the list of games that I bought was Ghostwire Tokyo, Stray, Enslaved Odyssey to the West Premium Edition, We Happy Few, Police Stories, Devil May Cry 5, Ghost Runner, WWE 2K22, Death Stranding Director's Cut, NBA 2K23, Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 2, Hades, Disco Elysium, and Police Simulator. So out of these games, the only two that I've played so far are Police Stories and Police Simulation. I think, yeah. And so Police Simulation was a game that I watched someone else play on YouTube, and I just thought it'd be interesting, and I played it. And I don't know. That game is hot and cold. You're literally doing the job of a police officer. It's not you're getting a drug bust, you're not doing anything hardcore. So I don't know if I just wasted, I think, $10 on that game. But
Right.
my daughter might like it as well, or whoever. I might play it again and I have a different experience with. Now, Police Stories is a top-down game. And I'm starting to love those games because after Michael, you bought The Ascent, and I started playing that. At first, I was annoyed. I didn't like that game. I was like, screw this game, I'm not gonna play it
Hmm.
because I couldn't get past a particular area like early on. And then once I did and finally started getting the ball rolling, I was like, okay, this game is kind of fun. But it's just one of those things where I start playing it, I get into a rhythm, then I just put it down for like a couple months and then I pick it up again. So Police Stories was kind of interesting because you and your cop buddy are clearing out rooms and you're taking out particular suspects. And that game, I won't say that it's hard. It's just you're trying to get your rhythm. You die off of one shot. And so I'm going into these rooms and we're trying to clear the room, and you lose points if you don't yell, police. So I accidentally shot one suspect, and then they were like, yeah, you shot a civilian. So now you lose points. And then you don't lose the game, you just lose points, and you got to get a particular amount of points to go into the next level. But then in another turn of that game, same guy, I yell police. He shoots me one time, I'm dead. So then I realized that you can use commands and you can have your cop partner. So of course, just like good old Rainbow Six, what do? You send them in first, right? And so I would send them in. Sometimes he take them out, sometimes he get taken out. And it's an interesting game. It's a game that I would say would be great while traveling. I would say because then you're not, if you let's say your battery pack is low or you don't have access to an outlet, this is a great game for the Steam Deck because then you're not pulling a lot of battery power, and I think it's kind of an interesting game.
Okay.
Another game on this list that I'm thinking about now that I played too is called Disco Elysium: The Final Cut.
Hmm.
It's an RPG. It is different than any game I've ever played before, and I mean that in a good way. I
Yeah,
haven't
I've
gotten
heard
to
nothing but great things about that game.
it's interesting. That's the only thing I can say about it right now. I'm really trying to get my footing down, so I can't really say if it's as amazing as being said. But from the little bit that I've seen, just the voice acting, the this different aspect, because Mike, me, I play JRPGs sometimes as well.
Hmm.
This plays like, I would say this. I wanted to almost say it played like Fable, but I'd be lying to you. Matter of fact, you know what this plays like? It plays like Police Quest with voices.
Right.
And when I say that, is because everything in the room is interactive and you have to do certain things. And then they want you to think. Like, you can't, if you want, you can play stupid if you want to, but they want you to think how you're going to approach things. They'll literally question. I remember one time there's a part of the game where my character wakes up, he's been drinking all night, he's finally putting his clothes back on, and the ceiling fan is on, and my tie is hanging to the ceiling fan. And your options is to, pull the fan, pull the light, pull the tie. And I was like, oh, I'll just grab the tie. And it's like, why would you do that? You'll pull the whole fan down. And I was just like, oh, you guys are getting this in depth. And so I had to turn off the fan and then then get my necktie to do whatever. And that's just a small thing of a few other things. It has a LA Noir aspect to it too, because you're questioning certain victims and
Hmm.
you have to ask them certain questions, and your tone can make them kind of like dwindle up, like, oh, I don't like the way you're talking to me. No more questions. And you're like, oh crap. And then you got to think of another way how to get certain answers. So it's a game
Well,
that I'm into. Go ahead.
one, I love the fact that you dug deep to get that Police Quest on there.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
I
was like,
missed that
damn.
game.
He brought a Police Quest. Oh wow, one of the all time
I
greats.
Man,
Yeah,
if I could find that game again, I play it. I would
yeah,
play it.
for sure. And two, yeah, like I said, I've heard nothing but great things about this game. There's a channel that I watch on YouTube called Switch Up, and they're the couple of Brits who all they review is Nintendo Switch games, and the one of them, and like I like these guys, I trust these guys because what they play is pretty much in line with what I like.
What you play.
Um, and so one of the guys, I believe is Mark, uh, he absolutely raves about Disco Elysium all the
Mm.
time. And so like while I don't play my Nintendo Switch a lot, I do watch their channel a lot because most of the third-party games that are on the Nintendo Switch have been out for the PC for a minute. And
Yeah.
so when it comes out for the Nintendo and they review it, I'm like, oh, well, let me check to see if this is on PC. Oh, it has. It's been on PC for like 2 or 3 years. And so uh yeah, he just absolutely has uh nothing but love for this game, and he's put in hundreds of hours. I think that's the one thing that had kind of dissuaded me to purchase that game for myself was because I know it's a long game, and I know you can
Mhm.
put hundreds of hours into it, and I just don't know if I have the time, especially with the backlog that I have. But the way that he described it is kind of like how you're describing it, where you can't really pin it down to one type of style or
No.
genre. It's just he uses Zach say words like it's a unique type, it's a different type of experience. Um, and I love that. I really want to check that one out.
I'm going to just say that it's a love letter to gaming. And the reason I say that is because anyone who comes up with a unique experience, whether that's writing or just something different from the norm, to me, I say it's a love letter to gaming because if you see the typical game, you go, let's say Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare is a legendary game in its own right, but for example, the dynamics haven't really changed. But you
Mhm.
play certain games, like for example, Spider-Man when it first came out many years ago, and Spider-Man on a PlayStation 4 are a unique experience, and to me, it's a love letter to gaming. Disco Elysium is a love letter to gaming. Sometimes when matter of fact, Borderlands, I will put up there, Rainbow Six, and the reason I put those games up there because those were games I could enjoy with family and friends,
Mhm.
right? The way that I wanted to. And when I say that, I'm not talking about playing a Fortnite type of environment. I'm talking about something story centric,
Yep.
going out there, getting your friends together. The Division comes to mind as well, even though its story was a little washy or whatever. But those games all to me have some particular thing about it. And of course, like I mentioned, like a threshold of others. But that's why I like, and like you said, it might take me hours to beat that game, but it's one of the matter of fact, when you have that one game, you haven't beat it yet, but you haven't uninstalled it yet. That's what that game is going to be. Whereas it's like, okay, now that I'm thinking about this game, let me go play it real quick. You play it for a little bit, you don't pick it up again for a month, but you don't uninstall it because you know how good that game is. You don't want to have to wait for the installation to take place again.
Mhm.
So it's there's some other games on my list like Tokyo Wire and Ghost Runner that I really want to play. I can't wait to get my hands also on Death Stranding. I know it was like a really weird game, but I'm interested to see some hidden gems. I think is Hades. I think Devil May Cry, as much as people hated that game when it no, not Devil May Cry 5, that was 4. But I haven't played Devil May Cry in forever, so I'm
You
really
know, I've
excited
never
for it.
played a Devil May Cry game.
I played it, man. I think I haven't played since 2,
Mm.
but it's fun. I won't deny it. It's fun. Um, I don't know if some of the demons will work for you because I think there might be that spider element.
Mhm.
Don't hold me to that.
Mhm.
I don't
That's
rem-
why I haven't played them.
but other than that, I mean, it's a fun button mashing game. So
I will say so Hades I have played.
okay.
And so Hades is a roguelike, but this one, the way they do it is pretty unique. And the way
Mhm.
the story is pretty cool. And so you're literally trying to climb out of hell or of Hades up to the top or whatever. And I think it's one of those games that's perfect for, like I said, I keep saying I don't typically like roguelike games, but um between Hades, Dead Cells, and Deathloop. And there's another one coming out for PlayStation, or I should say coming out for PlayStation. It's already out on the PS5, but it's coming to the PC this year. And I can't remember what it's called now. Darn. But anyway, so uh, Hades, I think, is one of those ones where it's great for pick up and play. Like literally, it should be. In fact, I actually own Hades on my Switch.
Mm,
It's a great pick up and play game. It's great to, there's no, oh man, I gotta save my progress or whatever. You're making runs,
mhm,
and you're what's the best way to describe it? You're collecting powers from the gods on each different run, depending on how well you do, and it's different every time you do it. It's different. Your loadout is different, and it's really fun. Um, I think that's one that I think that you will enjoy that one. I want to say it. Did that one win a game of the year? Maybe. It's that good. Like I think this game came out a couple of years ago, and it was all the hype. And like I gave it a chance. Like I said, I was like, roguelikes. No, this one was actually really fun. I think it's one of those games that's great for pick up and play.
okay. Well, I will definitely check that out. Mike, since we have a few minutes left, let's hit something positive. I do eventually want to sit down and record and talk about the happenings of DC, but I'm not doing it right now. So let's talk instead about what you are looking forward to, whether this year, this coming week, or whatever.
Okay, so the one thing I'm absolutely looking forward to is the new Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor. They just came out with a gameplay trailer maybe a week or two ago,
Hmm.
and oh my god, it looks amazing. There are some heavy. It's basically Uncharted but Star Wars, right?
Hmm.
And I'm fine with that. Like that's how the first game was, and I'm really really excited for this one. Just the gameplay looks cool. Looks like you have a partner that you can do combos and stuff with. Of course, the locales look amazing. Um, you're getting some new lightsabers. They've even mentioned that there will be dismemberments in this one that you can actually do. Whether or not it's just going to be droids or if you can actually do humans, it will remain to be seen. Um, but that one I'm absolutely looking out for because I want to say that that'll be a straight to PC as well because it's not a PlayStation exclusive. There's also Hogwarts. I'm kind of torn because uh, this Hogwarts game that's coming out looks really good, uh, but there's so much controversy surrounding it because of J.K. Rowling and all her craziness. And so I'm like, I don't like what she stands for, but I kind of grew up on Harry Potter, and I love
Hmm.
Harry Potter, you know. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. We'll see. And if I could have found it, I would have told you this other game that came out for PS5. It's a roguelike. Um, but that's coming out this year, and it looks really good. But again, it's just a uh, we'll wait and see. But yeah, that's what I'm waiting out for. Really, that Star Wars game. I'm really excited for that Star Wars game. I'm obviously a huge Star Wars fan. I love the first one. I can't wait to see what they do with this one. I love that story. Hopefully there won't be spiders in this one, but I know that people will mod it if that comes down to it. Well, eventually one of these days I'll have to, get hypnotized to not hate spiders. Um, I just can't keep doing it. But yeah, Star Wars definitely for sure is the one that I'm really waiting for.
That's what's up. So for me, it's a little bit of a few things. So first things first, I'm really excited to see Ant-Man. Want to see what we're working with. See if we're really now about to go into phase 5, or if we're still going to be sitting there up in the air with questions.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that one. I wanted to give us what you just said for the first part of it,
Hmm.
uh, but I'm nervous that if it doesn't, then I'm just gonna be done.
I'll put it like this, because me and you always chat about stuff like this. I'll probably never be done but my patience for things has dwindled to the point that I would just wait and see what happens once we get the ball rolling. And I can tell that's evident because I don't run to the theater anymore. You
Hmm.
know, I used to be the first one opening day, family no family, to go see something, and now I can wait. It's just not that serious anymore. And a lot of these movies, except personally for me, the Doctor Strange movie didn't really do anything for me. So on the gaming side, I'm really looking forward to a lot of the titles that I saw trailers for during the Game Awards. There's too many for me to think of the name. I know, for example, one that came to mind is there's a new Dead Space coming. I'm super excited for
Hmm.
that.
Yep.
I'm waiting for Callisto Protocol to hit that $30, $20 mark. And it's not because it's a bad game, but it's just the fact, and we talked about it before, some reason, some way, somehow it wasn't ready at opening day. And so now I'm not willing to put my money towards it until updates are given. So we'll wait and see for that game. The other things that I can't wait for is I'm going to finally dedicate some time now that season 2 is out. I'm gonna dedicate some time to Star Wars Bad Batch. I always heard how influential season 1 was, so I can't wait to watch season 1 and check out season 2.
I just started season 2. I got through the first 2 episodes.
Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely be speaking about that one in the future. And let's see, what else am I looking forward to? I'm going to make a concerted effort to get back into comic books. I have not read a lot of excuse me. I've read a lot of manga this past year. I didn't read a lot of comic books this past year. And I've been fortunate that I can go to the library and they have trade paperbacks for both manga and comic books. I am currently reading Iron Man Armored Wars, and that's been fun to read. And I've been reading Wolf Cub, Lone Wolf and Cub, which is a Japanese manga that got turned into a movie. Basically, there is a samurai who lost his wife, and now him and his child go around Japan, and he's still, this samurai works as a hired assassin, and they get put into pretty interesting situations. But the book has been it's, I think it was done in the 80s or the early 90s. The book has been great. I haven't seen the movies recently. I saw them, they came on during Samurai Sunday. And so I haven't seen many of the movies since then, but I'm gonna eventually jump back on those. It's the perfect book to read at work when you have like a 15-minute break, because
Mhm.
you can read one story during those 15 minutes and then come out and read another story. Because I don't know if you ever read the old school Judge Dredd's, but they weren't like long format storytelling. It
Okay.
would literally be like a story that's like 40, 50 pages, and then you're on to the next thing, and they're not very wordy either. So great stuff. So really excited for 2023. There's a lot going on. And then of course the channel, the gameplay stuff. I know Mike's got some visions for some stuff in the future. I would love to finally hit on some sci-fi stuff and talk about Expanse. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that just would be fun. Matter of fact, sci-fi in general, outside of Star Wars and Star Trek, I would just love to to find some awesome sci-fi out there and give it a shot and see what it's all about. There's been some great stuff. It just doesn't get to be spoken about as
Mhm.
often as I'd say the big two. And if you want to, you can kind of say the big three if you also want to add Expanse to that. But like Babylon 5 should be in development still and maybe be coming out. And there's been Humans, the TV show. There's been some stuff on Netflix that didn't really have the conversations about. There's a lot of stuff out there. So
Have
really
you been
hope to
able to
get.
watch any of the Star Trek shows?
I have watched Star Trek Discovery up to season 2,
Okay.
and I'm like in the first or second episode of season 2, but by far one of the most. If you're if I was to look at the old Star Trek to this one, for me personally, these are done so much better than the old ones. Even
Okay.
though I give props, of course, to the legacy stuff because it's still important. But yeah, I've personally have enjoyed this type of format compared to the situation of the week format in the old Star Trek episodes. Because man, think about it. That was 22 episodes a season, if
Hmm.
that. Like, and man, have you watched Babylon 5 in 2022? My goodness, how hard that first season is to get through
Oh
is.
man, I loved it.
Oh
I've
man.
I loved it, man. I could watch Babylon 5 over and over again, man. That's
Look,
a
don't get it twisted. I can watch it, but there's certain episodes where I was just like, "Whoa, man, this is, it's just time." Like, I mean,
yeah.
matter of fact, I'll put it this way: like, I watch Transformers G1 to
Hmm.
this day, and some people will tell you they can't take it anymore. It's just, things change over time.
Yeah,
There's
some
nothing wrong
stuff
with that.
ages well, some stuff doesn't.
Yeah, like I can't watch GI Joe to save my life. The
Right.
movie, I can, but the
Yeah.
TV, the TV show, it hits a little different.
A and now that you said it, like, uh, as far as, like, shows and stuff or whatever that you're looking forward to,
Mhm.
I'm actually looking forward to The Mandalorian, the next season of Mandalorian.
Ooh, yeah,
Looks
that'd be
really
interesting.
good. I just watched a theory, I don't wanna say conspiracy theory, but it was a fan's theory of why The Mandalorian was created
Mm,
and how and I shouldn't even say that, how why not only was The Mandalorian created, but, how the Star Wars Clone Wars TV show and Rebels TV show
mhm,
all tied together to basically say that the last trilogy of Star Wars movies occurs in a different universe, like an alternate universe.
ooh,
And I was like, I don't know. So I gave it a chance. I watched it, and man, it made sense.
mm,
It really made sense, and they pointed out some facts that made me go, "Oh, there's no way that the Mandalorian takes place in the same universe."
mhm,
And I was like, "This could be really good." Because while I initially loved those 3 Star Wars movies, it's hard for me to get back into them because I realized I didn't really like them that much.
yeah, I
Oh,
fight that too because I was thinking about it the last time you said that. I was like, no, they're not that bad, but
yes.
I
So
have not ran to none of them, none of them.
I'm looking. I tried to watch Force Awakens the other day ago, and it didn't happen.
Mm,
I got 5 minutes into it. I was like, eh. Um, but yeah, so Mandalorian for sure, absolutely for sure, am looking forward to. And actually, I just watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse yesterday. Just a great movie.
oh,
And
hold on, real quick, since we are talking about that.
okay,
How excited are you that part 2 is coming this year?
so that's what I'm talking about. That I want to. I'm waiting for that. I'm salivating over it. And to tie it into the whole comic book thing, I've decided that I'm gonna dedicate because I love the character of Miles Morales. And in
Mhm.
fact, I didn't realize I'm looking through the credits. Sarah Pacelli, who's the person that actually drew Miles Morales, um, she her and Michael Bendis got a nod in that movie when he's going through his cell phone contacts. Um, but
Yeah,
she
I
actually got
remember that.
credits uh in the movie for doing some of the artwork in the movie.
Oh, that's
Which
awesome.
which I
That's
didn't
awesome.
realize. I was like, "Holy crap, I just saw Sarah Pacelli's name in the credits."
Mm,
So which I thought was kinda cool. Um, so I decided that I'm gonna start all over and start reading everything from the beginning to the current stuff of Miles Morales because I love the character so much. And, I saw a thing. I don't wanna read too much into it because I
mhm.
don't know if it's an alternate universe thing. We've seen this before with Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. Um but there was a cover. I don't know what the current state of Miles Morales is, but there was a cover of him and Gwen Stacy's Spider-Man, which has always been a thing. Will they or will they not hook up? And the covers of them, they did hook up, they did get married, and they did have children. And so I'm like, oh man, I've been out way too long. I have no idea what's going on. Um, So I want to start all the way from the beginning and get to where they are currently before the next Spider-Man movie comes out. Because I am so hype. I forgot about the end credit scene of the original one with um uh what's his name? Miguel Herrera as Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and so seeing that trailer and that it's looking like, the movie Fugitive,
Hmm.
where Miles Morales is playing the fugitive and all the Spider-Men are coming after him. Um, I'm excited, man. That's what I'm really excited for. Like, yeah, Ant-Man and other stuff like that. Man, this is the one right here. Like, this is
Yeah,
the one I'm really
absolutely.
excited for.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about just the amount of matter of fact, that trailer came right in time too, because I had totally forgotten about that movie because
Mm,
so much had been broadcasted to come out and all this other stuff. So that when it finally dropped and they showed that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And so it's the only Sony. No, let me change that. Because I still don't mind the actual Spider-Man that comes out via Sony. But if we're gonna say any other Spider-Man property that comes out of Sony, it's only the Spider-Verse. It's not
right,
Venom, it's not
right.
more Mobius, none of the other stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
super excited for that. And there's yeah, man, 2023 is gonna be that year for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a
And
great year for pop culture, man. I think movies, TV shows. I think TV shows is kind of a given because there's so much talent coming out there.
mhm,
The Expanse is something that again I got to start all over. I got to
yeah,
start all over and just go. I just got to dedicate like a month or two
mhm,
to just start at the beginning and get caught up because that's not one of those shows that you can just pick up and watch. Like you got to understand what's going on.
yeah.
Um,
And mind
and
you, Jack Ryan just came out,
yep,
and
just started watching that, and yep, that's been
then my
pretty good.
boy Giancarlo Esposito in the TV show Kaleidoscope. So
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I haven't seen that yet.
I love a good um what would you call it? It's suspense in the sense of, well, I guess they're trying to steal something. So I like those type of movies
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So yeah, like you said, there's a lot coming. And you know what? There's one thing else I'm going to add to this. I'm going to make a better effort that even though, because we always talk about the big two in our episodes. I'm gonna make a better effort to step away from the big two at certain times in these episodes because we give them a lot of stake. And yeah, they're the big ones out there, but sometimes because of that, we miss out on some really good shows that are whatever type of medium over there off to the side.
Mhm.
And they don't get the flowers they deserve until later on when we possibly get a movie or TV show out of it or something of that sense. But I think Michael, me and you have both said in one form of another, hey, look, I'm kind of done until I get this. So no better time than to take that time to use it towards some of these other things, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man,
So
Resident Alien, that's where it's at.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I gotta give that a try as well.
Yeah, yeah, got
But
it.
until then, this has been another episode, the first episode of the Nation80 podcast of 2023. And there's still that little fight of me saying comics, but I've worked my way through it. It's like an addiction. I've been saying comics forever, and then you're just saying Nation80 podcast. But Nation80 is big time, baby. We're gonna be doing some big things. So look at our YouTube channel. We got more coming that way. We're hoping to we'll see if we can get some guests, and until then we'll see you next week for another episode.